How can you deal with the fact that you don't know how your child died? She had apparently been found with a rope around her neck. Her shorts and her panties had been removed and were found lying close to the body.
It was the most horrific moment in my life.
I mean, 24 is no age for anyone to die.
All we wanted to know was what happened to my sister and why she was murdered. And we've never been able to get those answers.
Over the years, I've been fighting, I've fought with the police, I've begged, I've pleaded, I've written letters to try and get some idea what happened that night. What happened to my daughter?
Every single day, I just wish that her killer will go behind bars where he belongs.
Join me, Elizabeth Marshall, as we take a road trip through the South African psyche, taking you to the edge of society's norms and beyond. It's time for Tales from the Edge.
For my book, I want you to imagine your child is murdered. Now stretch your minds further. Imagine you don't know who killed them or how they died. To take a life is bad enough, but as a parent or loved one, not to know, surely, this is murder most foul.
Tracy and I were best mates. I've not had a friend like her since, and I don't think I ever will. We were friends for 13 years. What I remember most about her is her passion for sports. We shared the same passion there. She's always smiling, always bubbly, very good friend. Kind of person that you can tell anything to.
She was a very loving, caring person, always trying to help everyone where she can. She was also involved with children. She worked at a children's home with babies who were born with AIDS. She also enjoyed her sport. She liked doing her sport, but she loved her kids. She always worked with kids.
At that part of my life, she was my everything. She was my beginning, she was my end. My day started with her and my day ended with her. There was just nothing that I wanted to do without her. She was my whole everything.
I fluctuate between what happened to her because I don't know what happened. I got a phone call on Friday morning from my nephew stating, had my car been stolen? And I said no. It was Tracy's car, had been found on the R21 towards Pretoria, just before the Tembisa off-ramp, Tembisa-Braamfontein off-ramp.
What we know for certain is that in the early hours of the morning of the 11th of March 2005, Tracy Thompson's car came down this road heading north, supposedly back to the cottage which he was sharing with 3 other roommates. Something occurred just about here, and later the flying squad found the abandoned car, windows broken, keys in the ignition, parked just about where I was standing. Tracy, of course, was missing.
There were 4 of them sharing a flat out on the plots in Elandsfontein. 2 girls and 1 young man and Tracy.
Basically, I went to bed that night and I was lying awake waiting for Tracy to come to bed. And I heard Wendy say that she was going to bed as well. And VM just said they were going to have a last cigarette together and then he was going to go to bed. And I fell asleep. That was about 11 o'clock. And I woke up at 1 and Tracy wasn't there, and at 5 o'clock she was still not there.
A little bit after that, I got a telephone call from her flatmates asking had she slept at home that night, and I said no, and alarm bells were ringing.
Huh, Mrs. T, is Tracy there? No, her car's not here and I haven't seen her since last night. Now, if you see her, please let her know I'm looking for her.
So we phoned the police to report her as a missing person.
The first day when Tracy was missing, the police officer that came to our house When he found out that Tracy and I was in a relationship, he started laughing and walked out the door and told me that she was probably with another girl and that I shouldn't worry. It was the most horrific moment in my life. I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know what to do.
Initially, when we knew that she'd disappeared, I mean, obviously the thing then was the anxiety of wanting to know what had happened, because you think of various scenarios that could have happened.
I think in my heart I knew she was gone, but we were hoping. Then the following Sunday morning, it was very early hours of the morning, I got a telephone call from a young constable from the Kempton Park police station. Hello? You found Tracy's body, haven't you? No, I don't want you to come round to the house. Please just tell me, I need to know. You found her body, didn't you? I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much, Constable. They found Tracy's body.
On the 19th of March 2005 at approximately 6 p.m. this is the spot that the body of Tracy Thompson was found, naked and bound hand and foot.
Her shorts and her panties have been removed and were found lying close to the body.
It was the two things that she feared most in life, being raped and being strangled. She was alone and she was a kid. I mean, just 24. Yeah.
This is Tracy's room. It's basically untouched since her death. Picture behind glass. It's all we've got left of her. The other big thing about Tracy was a single red rose. It's become a hallmark. It was very hard to come into her room after it happened, and the worst were her shoes, because she used to keep her shoes at the end of her bed, and we used to walk in and she was never coming back. And just before she was killed, she sat with me. She killed them and she never wore them again. So yeah. We didn't know when she died. We didn't know where she died. We didn't know how she died. And I believed that everything was being done to trace a killer. But as time passed, it seemed to me that nothing was happening.
In my opinion, the flying squad who found the car were not trained sufficiently or motivated sufficiently to treat the finding of the abandoned vehicle as a scene of crime. Then 9 days later, when the deceased's body was discovered, it appears as if the first police on the scene believed this was a prostitute who'd been murdered at one of the sites used by them, and again the whole scene of crime was not sealed off.
The frustration set in, and I don't know what made me decide that I was going to go ahead and have a private post-mortem done. I'd started to get the feeling I was being lied to, and I was being led around. I wasn't being told the truth. It came out no post-mortem had ever been performed by the mortuary in Germiston. They'd done the Y-cut, and that was as far as it went. Basically, nothing had been done. She wasn't in the church for her own memorial service because they told me they were doing a post-mortem, and it wasn't true. There were no photographs of Tracy's body. There was no photographs of the rope around her neck. The pathologist in Johannesburg had actually asked them to bring the photos because she said then she could have maybe seen how tight the rope was if she'd been strangled. And they just never materialized, and we found out they didn't materialize because there weren't any.
1 year from people that know that as far as crimes are concerned, especially crimes of murder, etc., that the most important time is within the first 48 hours, I think they say. That's the time period in which the police should be putting all their resources into it.
The rape test kit they established had been done on her, but it was missing. Nobody knew where it was. By this time, I felt something had to be done. The family needed answers. We needed to know. We need to get a private investigator. I phoned the private investigator, Declan Condon. Within a few days, he'd done what the police hadn't done in 4 months. There was such a clash. The police did not want to work with him. He was more than willing to work with the police. They weren't interested.
I find it very difficult because of the circumstances, especially the difference in where a car was found and where her body was found. The body was found right across a fairly large millie field, just off another road. So it was about 2 kilometers, as I say, in a direct line.
To my right, about 2 kilometers down, is the R21 highway where the car was found as the crow flies. The body was found where I'm standing now. To my left, about 50 yards, is another main road, and 2 to 2.5 kilometers west up that road is where the cottage is. So if one drew a straight line between the cottage, the location of the body, and the car, you've almost got a straight line of about 6 kilometers.
Her flatmates at this point had never been interviewed. When we asked why, they said because they were not implicated, there was no reason to interview them.
I never got to know her girlfriend that she was dating, the lady she was dating at the time, until afterwards. I didn't meet her until afterwards. But the other couple she was staying with, I didn't like, and it was actually Tracy and I had a fallout a couple of months before that, and they were the reason for it. So yeah, no, they know exactly what happened.
2 weeks after they found Tracy's body, when they started doing the interviews with the flatmates and everything, VM was missing. And it turned out that a private investigator found him down in Cape Town, that he had fled and gone down there to avoid speaking to the police and everything. And he actually, when Declan Colin, the actual private investigator, went down to speak to him, he actually phoned me. And I was at my father's at that time, and he said to me, what is the point of sending the police down to him? Do we all think that he did it, and what was the problem? And he threatened to put his brother on me, who is a psychotic little dude.
I think he's withheld information, because the day she went missing we went around to the flat to go speak to all the friends at the flat. And he was going to phone his dealer to see if Tracy had contacted him. So he used my mom's phone to make the phone call. But after leaving there, we checked the call history, and he didn't make any calls whatsoever. So right from the very first day, when he said he made the phone call, he didn't.
They'd had this agreement that only one of them would go out at a time, so his girlfriend or fiance at the time wouldn't know that he was still using drugs. And he said it was Tracy's turn to go out. Tracy was very, very scared of the dark. She would not go out in the dark on her own. She was petrified. He said he watched her unpadlock the gates. That night it was overcast. There was no moonlight. He could not have seen, where he stated where he was standing, have seen Tracy leave that property.
She would not at all go outside without someone on her side that she really trusted with her life. And then it would only be a few feet out of the door. I can put my head on a block. She did not go alone. The car was parked outside my bedroom window. I am one of the lightest sleepers you'll ever meet. There was no way that that car would have started next to my window and me not knowing about it. And she was too small to push her own car out the gate. Tracy was too tiny to do that on her own.
Knowing what I know about drugs, that one drug addict craving is going to send another one out to buy drugs alone. It doesn't make sense. When Tracy was using, I could see the suspicion and how her character and her personality changed. And I know that she wouldn't trust anybody. I have had thoughts at times that she possibly died in their flat. And he maybe, it sounds very far-fetched, maybe set up the whole scene. Officially, cause of death is strangulation.
I'm convinced that VM was back on drugs. And I think that he tried to convince Tracy to go with him to Kempton Park to buy the drugs, because she is a rehabilitated drug addict, unfortunately. And I think that he either, this is real theory in my head, but I think that maybe he killed her on his way to Kempton Park because they had an argument. And I think that he dumped her body next to the road in the family fields and ran out of petrol on the way back home. And he was fit enough to jog back home before anybody noticed anything.
Deep down inside me, I believe that she was killed by somebody who knew her.
This tragic story has any number of truths. One version has Tracy leaving her house in the middle of the night for a drug fix and meeting her demise alone on the way home. Another version is that she was accompanied by her male housemate at the time to Kempton Park to purchase the drugs, and then on their way back, the two of them began arguing, stopped the car, and Tracy was murdered by an unknown assailant who happened to be on the scene. Another theory is that Tracy's car ran out of petrol on the way home. She flagged down another car, was kidnapped by them, and brought to the location where her body was discovered.
What happened between the time she left the flat and she died? And I think that is my biggest fear, that she suffered for a long period of time. And secondly, was she raped or not?
Tracy's body wasn't brought here, dumped here by one person. I'm positive of that as well. So we're hoping with a reward of 300,000, somebody will contact me who either has a conscience and can feel what the mother feels and the father and the damage it's done to them.
The only thing I can say with certainty is that right almost from the start, we had a feeling that there was something the other three people in the flat weren't telling us. There was some sense that they were holding something back.
Honestly, I don't want to know. I've dealt with it. It's taken a long time, but I have dealt with it. But for her family, for them, they need the closure. So I would like for them to know what happened. But I don't need to. It's memories I don't want to have of her. So yeah.
I was so busy trying to get to the truth. The time passed and I existed. It was almost watching somebody else fill my body and play a role. You try and fill the gap, but you can't. When it was coming up for Tracy's first anniversary, I was extremely angry. I was very, very angry. And I started writing poetry. It was like I had words in my head. They were tormenting me and they were screaming to get out. And I started writing it into a book form. And yes, it was very healing for me. I never expected it to land up in a fully completed book. But yes, it was one of my healing roads, and I still use that mechanism.
I'll never forget the last Valentine's we stayed together. And she forgot about Valentine's Day, actually, to be honest. And she actually went the next day down to the church and stole one of their little roses to come and apologize to me, to say sorry for everything. And till today, that's the last, most beautiful memory I have of her. Because she's always tried to make up, and she always made me feel so loved and so cared for. She would protect me with her laugh.
Every Friday I get a rose. I put in a vase in memory of Tracy. After a week or so, the rose is wilted. I keep every single rose since the day, since her murder. I keep them in the boxes here. The small box over here has got her ashes in, which has got the dragon sitting on, protecting them.
You can never grieve enough for someone you've loved. You can never grieve enough. The only thing is you go on with your life and you try and put it behind it, but you never forget. And you never forget what that impact that person made on your life, ever. Because she was the person who actually formed me into who I am today.
My sister was my best friend and my confidence, and I lost a person who was really close to me. There isn't a day that goes by where I don't think about her. Every year, in March and in August, I go to Memorial Garden. I put roses there. The day she went missing, I go there in March, and in August I go there 2 days. In August I go there on my birthday, the 12th. And I go there on the 21st, which is her birthday. And I go spend about an hour at the Memorial Garden every year.
Very often the mind plays tricks on you, and you could be driving or walking through a shopping mall or down the street, and very often you'll catch the sight of somebody out of the corner of your eye. They just look and be dressed so that you, for one split second, you can actually think, oh my God, that's Tracy. And of course it isn't, it never is, but it's something that you don't really lose.
I just wish that we could find justice. That her killer actually can go to jail and she can find peace. So that she can go to rest. So that her mom and them can find peace.
When Tracy was born, we planted an acorn, and this is her tree. It's known as Tracy's tree. We never ever believed that this tree would be here and Tracy not. The tree is grown and full of life, birds' nests, and Tracy is not here. And then at the back, we planted an acorn for when Glenn was born. So both of my children have grown up with their trees in the yard. It's very sad that you have to look at a tree to remember your daughter or your family by. I miss her laughter, I miss her sense of humour, and I miss her smell. It's a strange thing to say, but each human being, and especially your family, they're unique. We were extremely close. We were friends as well as mother and daughter.
A family losing a loved one is difficult enough, but it's the mystery that'll keep you up at night.
Stay tonight, feeling like I wanna get to know you, feeling like I really need to know you. So what do you say?